Thank you, Adarsh, for joining us today on Let's Talk Business series by RealtyNXT.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
So, Adarsh, I am very curious to know which was that particular moment that made you create Primus Senior Living into the existence. Like, how did it challenge you after that or change your own perspective when it comes to aging in India?
So, the story of how Primus started, the credit completely goes to my grandmother. It was not like I thought of it as a big business or I thought of it as some large opportunity. I was just trying to make my grandmother proud, right? And the way it kind of started was, of course, I'm from Bangalore. We are South Indians, so in our upbringing, education was always core to how we were brought up. And my grandmom had 9 siblings.
Wow.
And all her siblings had children in the US. And because they were well educated, and they're well settled. And every time they used to come home, they used to hint to their parents that, hey, why don't you come to the US? There's something special for seniors. It's called a retirement community. And this was around the time that I used to do regular real estate. And I used to share everything with my grandmom because since I'm second generation, I was brought up primarily by my grandparents because dad and mom, they struggled in the initial years. And she called me one day and said, "Put Papa Baili," in our local language, loosely translated is like, small baby. That's what she calls me. Come here. And then she told me, "Hey, why don't you do something for my sisters? What is this so special in the US that doesn't exist in India?" So that's how the idea was born. And then I did some research because I didn't know better. I went to my room and typed old age home America because I thought that's what it was. Then I realized that it's also a very large industry, and I felt like it's an intersection of passion and purpose for me. So I actually took off about 30 to 45 days. I took a sabbatical. I got on a plane, went to the US, stayed in a whole bunch of retirement communities, right from Shell Point in Florida to one in Connecticut where all the investment bankers retired. I went to one of Belmont in Florida, in California, in Los Angeles, where all the retired Hollywood stars were living. And then I went to Seattle. Then I felt the American model may not work with the Indian family context. So I went to Japan. I met a 100-year-old lady on the 100th floor of an apartment in Tokyo. So yeah, I spent some time traveling the world, and that's when after I came back, that's how Primus started.
But tell me, senior living is more than just a real estate, right? It's about trust. And especially in India, how did you break through the culture barriers to make families see senior living as an aspirational choice?
Absolutely. So this word trust is unfortunately very loosely used by a lot of industry players, right? And senior living, we are not essentially solving for trust. What we are solving for is we're solving for independence, we're solving for freedom of choice, we're solving for agency, and we're solving for how we can improve quality of life, right? We always get confused between lifespan and health span.
Yeah.
Lifespan is how long a person lives. Health span is how long a person lived independently and actively. What companies like ours do is we solve for health span. So essentially, we try to keep all our elders physically active, mentally active, socially engaged. We run a bunch of preventive healthcare programs on them, and we bring nature into their ecosystem, which is akin to what a blue zone looks like. These communities around the world where people live the longest, with the hope that we improve health span. So that's what is trust. Trust is not delivering a building on time, or trust is not selling an apartment at a certain price. In this business, trust is keeping the smile on the face of the elder, giving them purpose, giving them agency, making a stress-free environment where everything gets taken care of. So that's how it is fundamentally very different.
But do you believe the Indians are now opening up to the concept of senior living? Because before pandemic, everyone, because there were few players earlier also, and I had asked them as well, and they said they've been always a challenge because they have looked as taboo. They have always faced backlashes that what are you doing? Why are you breaking our traditions? Did you feel any, or did you face such challenges when you started Primus?
Yes, absolutely. So for any industry to become an industry, it has to go through a transition phase, right? If you look at arranged marriages were the norm many years ago. I don't think we know anybody now who would go in for an arranged marriage, or it's a significant minority. If you thought of having a baby through IVF, I think people would go off with the idea. Today, if we turn our heads, I think every other road in India has an IVF center. So senior living is also going through that journey. Initially, people were apprehensive of what this means as a product. But as and when they visit communities like ours and other people who are building like and operating like us, they realize that it's a lifestyle choice. It's a place where people by choice come to enjoy themselves. They want to see their wife also retire. The lady of the house wants to go back to focusing on their passion. So when people see that this is not what our Hindi movies have sold us, some dreary, dreaded place where children and parents don't get along and elders are abandoned. And if you come and look at any of our communities, you'll know that all of these guys could afford 4 to 5 people to help them in their house, but they choose to live with us for the lifestyle and the community, right? So when people understand that, that's how it's becoming mainstream. The other thing that's also helping the journey is the nuclearization of India, right? Today, joint families are no more the norm. And but the love between the parents and the children hasn't changed. So both the parents feel a need that I have to be independent, I should not depend on my child. And the children are financially secure. So they are not looking for their parents to leave them money, so to speak. So these two factors have actually increased the size of the market, because elders have come out of their survival mentality saying, "ठीक है, मुझे भी जीना है. I want to live my life now. I have brought up my children, I have educated them, I have struggled and I've made this, saving, nest egg for myself. Now I want to enjoy it. I want my wife to enjoy it. I want my family to enjoy it." So they're okay to spend on themselves. So these are the factors that have changed the dynamic of the industry.
So tell me, you must have worked very closely with seniors and their families, right? So has there been any kind of story or one story or interaction that stayed with you and maybe redefined your mission in Primus?
So it's a great question, Kritika, because this is what we live for, right? Because this business gives you the ability to actually meaningfully impact somebody's life, as opposed to, say, building a home and selling a home, which is also, very noble, but that transaction ends at that point. For us, our work starts at the end of the delivery of the house. That's when our work starts. I have hundreds of stories to share. We had a person who came in on a wheelchair, and then the family came and met me and they said, our only wish is that I hope mom can walk again. And through physiotherapy, mom is not only walking, she participates in our annual fashion show every year. She goes for her morning walk. She's not at all on a wheelchair. We had another lady who had a severe bout of COVID. She was from Delhi, and the doctors had pretty much written her off. And they said this person is never going to get out of the bed. So again, the same lady is leading a perfectly normal life. We have tons of children who come and tell us that, my parents have a lot of money, but we find that, they're not meaningfully occupied. Today, they don't even have time to talk to us. So thank you for giving this thing where they look younger, they feel happier, they feel more energetic. So it's lots of such stories to share, and that's what gives us the motivation to keep going.
So recently in news, we heard that Primus is expanding to 6 cities coming up with 3,500 homes, right? So how do you ensure the model of your model of care by making sure the security or making sure the impactfulness is still there while scaling at this pace?
Oh, absolutely. So if you look at any company that has scaled, say for example hotels, if you go to a Marriott hotel or if you go to an Oberoi or a Taj, wherever they are in the world, you get a certain experience, right? How has that been built? That is built through rigorous training, rigorous operating of the standard procedures, and building a culture in the organization, which is what, so we are not an overnight player. We have been here for the last 7 to 8 years. We've been running communities for the last 5 years with elders in them. So we have built these teams that now become the agents of training and procedures, which we are taking across the country. So we believe that we are a combination of a hotel, a hospital and a home. We're a little bit of all of this. So we have people from all these industries that we have brought together to create a positive aging experience. So that's how we're scaling the business.
So tell me, you must also have noticed post-pandemic, more players have come into senior living segment, right? Even the existing developers are getting into it. So how would you differentiate Primus Senior Living among all these players in this current market?
Absolutely. So I think the simplest way for a consumer to know if a person is a real estate developer or a senior living operator or a senior living developer is to understand, okay, after the building is done, what do I need to pay?
Right.
If that sounds like a typical apartment, okay, you pay a CAM of 3 rupees or 4 rupees or whatever is the industry norm, that essentially means that it's just an apartment with a fancy name.
Yeah.
But if you find that, okay, all of these services are being given and there are hundreds of people who are paying for all of these services on a month-on-month basis, that means that company has a focus on giving services and conveniences.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest way to differentiate. Like in all industries, there will be a whole bunch of players who get in, whole bunch of players who understand that it's a very specialized services play. In fact, real estate is one of the most insignificant parts of a senior living company.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the journey ends in 3 years or whatever number of years once you build and sell the home. But the real solutioning is once they live with you, how are you taking care of them? How are you keeping them happy? Which may not be the expertise of a lot of real estate developers. And some of them have taken the view that it's okay to outsource this to 10 different people. Okay, I'll find a hospital to run my medical, I'll find somebody else to run housekeeping, I'll find another person to run my kitchen. That never ties in well. And there's always going to be a cultural gap in understanding how to solve for elders. So, like all businesses, it's a very specialized play. And I'm sure a few developers will look at it like that and do the right things. And we will see a lot more players getting in and growing the size of the market, which is a great thing.
True. So tell me, you recently also launched intergeneration housing, right? Which is quite a bold move in India especially. So I'm curious to know, how are you planning to design these spaces to foster meaningful, connection among all these generations, especially, catering to the unique needs of the seniors?
So necessity is the mother of invention. So they say. We started here in Bangalore and then we went to Chennai, we went to Pune, Bombay and Calcutta. As a company, when we started moving to cities from south to north, the notion that we are doing a vridashram or ye kya hai senior living started to get louder because our sales is directly proportional to education level. If I just do a quick dipstick into who is my customer and I filter by education, higher the education, faster the conversion, because we are a business where people understand what solution we provide and they buy. It's not like a product where if you say I'm giving some 3 lakhs off today, nobody's going to come and buy because of that. The decision making is from internal and it's a pull sale, it's not a push sale, right? And when we started to go and communicate in these cities beyond Bangalore and Chennai, we realized that people are not understanding what our product represents, right? And we also found that a lot of developers have families who are buying together, but they're living in like, okay, my parents are in 3rd floor, I'm in 5th floor. My in-laws are in Tower B, I'm in Tower A. Then we said, hey, why don't we formalize this? It's already happening. People want to live together, but not under the same roof. Women of the house want to have their parents nearby. The men of the house want to have their parents nearby, but not under the same roof. So I call this nuclear joint family, right? And we believe this is how Indians are going to live, in my mind. So what we started to do is we started to plug ourselves into these larger projects. So for example, with Merlin and Srijan in Calcutta, they're doing these large townships of a few thousand apartments. 1 or 2 blocks, we have partnered with them to do senior living. And now this whole project becomes intergenerational. So where the parents and in-laws could live in this senior living tower, they'll have a bunch of exclusive amenities, they'll get to be with their friends. Everything is serviced and taken care of, while the rest of the project becomes intergenerational, where the children and grandchildren can live. And we started curating activities between grandparents and grandkids and things like that. So we live together but apart. Everybody gets their own space, everybody gets their own independence, and everybody gets convenience. Now the other advantages is for the rest of these towers, the services that we give, nutrition services, medical services, conveniences, concierge, housekeeping, all of this, we open it up on a pay-per-use for the rest of these people. So other than a fancy clubhouse, so to speak, now you have all these additional amenities. And this decision now becomes an emotion, right? So if I ask you, Kritika, that let me say Panvel, since you're from Bombay, right? And in Panvel there was A, B developer and C was me. And A and B were selling apartments at 15,000 rupees. I am C. I have senior living as part of this regular housing, what we call intergenerational. And let's say I was 1,000 rupees higher. Would that 1,000 rupees change your decision?
Of course not, because I'm getting more, as you said,
you get to have your parents next to you.
Of course.
Right? It's like when you had a child, if you did, I don't think you went and asked the hospital how much to deliver a child.
True.
You said, hey, I want the best care for my child and me. This is the same emotion that Indians have when it comes to parents. So we have seen a very good uptake in this concept where everybody gets their independence and space. And that's how we started intergenerational housing. And right now, almost 80 to 90% of everything we're doing is intergenerational.
So would you say the Primus senior living comes under affordable? I know I'm going to bifurcate it just for the viewers to also understand. Is it going to be a premium kind of facility and the property, or would it be considered under affordable? How would you define it?
So again, these are very loosely used terms. What is affordable to A isn't affordable to B. So let me just put a price point out there and then people can contextualize it in their own minds, right? So typically our homes, they start at about 75 lakhs and they go up to a couple of crores. We have a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom and a 3 bedroom. And typically on a monthly basis to give our various services, again like nutrition, medical, housekeeping, concierge, events and common area, there would be a fixed cost of around 14 to 15,000 rupees a month. And then depending on if you choose food as part of your package, it may go up to 25 to 35,000 a month. Typically a couple who could say afford a crore of a house and about 25,000 rupees a month is our customer. Because we believe that's where we can give high quality services at a reasonable price. Because all of this costs money even in their own house. Today, if an elderly couple is living in their own house, they still have to pay for stuff. But we have the advantage of economies of scale. And whenever this country gets out of poverty, the cost of manpower is going to be unaffordable for a 1:1 care. Today, many people are able to afford one maid for one house, one cook for one house. I don't see that lasting for too long, as in when people upgrade themselves.
So apart from this package, if the customer is taking, do they also have to pay the maintenance, like how anyone would stay in a society, right? So there would be a maintenance, there would be separate your electricity, everything would be going on.
All that is the same.
Okay.
So what I told you includes the common area maintenance or the CAM.
Okay.
And when we are in larger townships, the CAM goes to the primary developer and then the services cost comes to us.
Okay.
Yeah, but similar.
And in this case, and I'm interested to know why, because every senior has different health ailments, right? So how do you make sure that everyone gets the best of the care? Because there can be a possibility where someone is a diabetic, but someone is having more of a heart issue or more of a major issues, health issues. So how does Primus make sure that every senior citizen health problems are taken care?
This is a great question, Kritika, and we believe that this is also very core to what we offer in terms of Primus. We very actively run a preventive healthcare plan. Now, what is a preventive healthcare plan? Typically, any of us, we wait for something to go wrong before we go and talk to a doctor. And what typically happens is the doctor will look at it, say, go and do these 10 tests. You come back and they'll give you some dawai. Both of you forget each other until the next time you fall sick. Right? And that's a cycle that goes on. But what we do is we run advanced care plans wherein we test people on a quarterly, 6 monthly, annually, once in 2 years basis, where we try to find all underlying conditions in stage 1. So think of catching oncology in stage 1. If I do a mammogram once in 6 months and I'm able to catch cancer in stage 1, I can give them a meaningful outcome. Simple things. About 70% of elders have a knee replacement surgery after 75.
Yeah.
What if I told you that 90% of the time that could be avoided by physiotherapy?
True.
So we avoid that by doing physiotherapy. So when a person moves into our facility, we're doing a medical assessment and we're doing a physiotherapy assessment. In the medical assessment, we look at their medical history, the surgeries, the current medication. And then in the physiotherapy profile, we look at their gait, their balance, their hip integrity, joint integrity, because we're trying to reduce the chance of them falling down, right?
Yeah.
And then together we kind of internally mark a health score. And the way that we work on it is to improve that. So that's how we run these individualized care plans depending on the condition of the person. And we actively work on finding things in stage 1.
Okay.
So that's how we are.
And if there be any emergencies, is there like an in-house doctor, in-house, staff to be there as a backup?
Of course. So all our facilities have a full-time medical team, 24/7 nursing. We have full-time doctor, full-time physiotherapist, and we have tie-up with all the nearby major hospitals. And because we have their medical record, if God forbid there's an emergency, we also have an ambulance on site. So God forbid there's an emergency, there's already data available at the nearest medical center. And we have a tie-up for a priority check-in, so to speak. So we don't waste any time. And the medical record goes with the resident.
Why I ask this, because as you also mentioned earlier that of course there are players getting into it and people do sell it as more of a real estate than as a, wellness and your lifestyle being improved. It is necessary for seniors or even the families to understand that with Primus, all these facilities come in the picture, right? So these are the medical facilities that you listed. What other different amenities or innovative approach are you providing in this particular community?
Like I mentioned, what we do is very specific to an elder, right? You would typically notice that after a certain age, if an elder typically retires, most of the time goes in probably watching TV or forwarding WhatsApp, right? So we actively work on purpose. How do we give purpose to our residents? If a person, for example, let's say that they were a retired officer in the fire department, just giving an example, right? We'd say, okay, can you come and teach all the new folks that are coming out on a voluntary basis? So you feel good about it at the end of the day that you imparted your knowledge. Similarly, if you were a person from the army, what are the skill sets that you could use to improve people around you so you feel good about yourself? So purpose is something that we work on very actively. We have a full-time events team whose only job is to get people out of the house and into the common areas to participate in community activities. Now what this does is this keeps people mentally active, it keeps them physically active, it keeps them socially active, and this actually reduces the process of aging. That's what we are solving for. Now again, if you look at, I talked to you about how we do medical care, right? If you look at how we do nutrition, because India is essentially Europe, right? We have so many countries within a country when it comes to the diet. We look at doing 2-3 versions of each dish versus making multiple dishes. So for example, if you look at rice as an item, we'd have a semi-viscous rice, a brown rice, a white rice. And since we serve the same person, we customize it when it's being tossed to the person that we are serving. So that's how we manage the taste palettes. If there's a dal, we'd have something that is with onion, garlic and spicy, and something that is medium spicy and something that's bland. So that's how, we do these little things everywhere. When it comes to housekeeping, for example, we measure quality of conversation. I don't measure turnaround time. I don't say this house has to be cleaned in so many minutes. But I expect my housekeeping staff to know everything about my resident. Who are their children? Where do they live? What chocolate does the grandchild like? Does the lady of the house like Lysol or Harpic? How does she like pillows to be placed? These are the kind of things that we check up on so that it's a relationship when you get in. It's not a transaction.
Right.
So this kind of philosophy is taken across, whether it comes to events team, whether it comes to the concierge team, whether it comes to the way we train our security. So it's a holistic solution with this larger goal of reducing the process of aging. That's what we work on.
And that would require very highly skilled trained staff for that, right? And how do you ensure that all these activities, be nutrition wise, be event wise, be making sure each and every detailing as such from housekeeping is taken care. In every facility, how I touched upon earlier also, that you are expanding to other cities, how are you going to make sure such staff is aligned with your vision and mission?
No, absolutely. I'm just going to circle back to the same example of an Oberoi or a Taj. If they go to the remotest parts of the country and the world and they replicate the experience for you, I don't see why we can't do that. It's just that the levers for me are different from the levers for an Oberoi, for example.
True.
But we'll put in our levers and our training for our staff. And you'd be surprised that one of the core values of Indians is to respect their elders. So we actually get a lot of staff who have a motivation beyond money. So at our head office kind of a environment, we get a lot of folks who want to be part of our industry because we do something meaningful. And there are people who have been very successful in their professional careers, but now they want to contribute, right? And at the ground level, right from a person from a village, if I recruit a housekeeping lady, for example, and tell them, listen, you are going to go and clean the house of these 100 people who are older, her level of motivation to go and do that is far greater than telling her, here is a 5-star hotel, go and clean these rooms. Because she feels like I helped that person.
True.
And let me also tell you, elders are by far the most grateful people. Right? I have had a past where I dealt with a business which wherein we deliver to youngsters. My view is that they feel more entitled, but the elders are very grateful because you solve an actual problem and they express their gratitude. True. And this goes down to the last level, the housekeeping team, my kitchen staff, my security team. They're all motivated because our elders are so sweet to them. So what we pay is a small portion of what actually motivates them to be with us.
Right. But that's the one positive side to it. And let me just play the devil's advocate here. Because there has been a report, and which is quite surprising, where the senior abuse is quite high in India, right? So how do you make sure the accountability and the surveillance of your own staff is also there, so that our viewers also understand when they are sending their family, when even the staff is involved by day to day, where the family could not visit every day? How do you make sure these staff which you have placed in each and every city and the community, they are being accountable and they are being watched?
So when you talk about senior abuse as a problem statement, typically it is from family members. It is not from people outside the family. I'm talking 90% and above. And again, this abuse probably goes back to some form of property and wealth. And maybe in a large majority of cases, it is applicable to the not so wealthy or the lower middle class, right? So for us, it's not even a conversation because it's just something that never happens. And we have an opportunity to check in on our residents every day. 3 times a day, they come down to the restaurant. Right. Twice a day, they come down for the events. If anything has happened, they're not going to keep quiet about it. And we have different people who go to the unit on a daily basis. There's a nurse that goes to the unit. There's a housekeeping team that goes to the unit. Then there may be our supervisory staff that goes to the unit. There are friends and fellow residents who go to the unit. It's very unlikely that all of these people missed seeing something like that.
True.
So for us, we feel like when we train our staff, it's not even a conversation for us.
That you're making sure that every time
absolutely.
the feedback and any kind of...
And our customers, like I told you, they are high-paying, highly educated, fully well-traveled customers. They are not going to put up with crap.
Of course. So as we discuss on the senior abuse part, I'm also very curious to know that there must be a checklist for you also to take in certain seniors in your communities, right? Because we are talking about a certain age group which has different kind of health problems, and it can be neurological problem as well. So where do you put an end that we can't take this particular resident in? So do you have a certain checklist for that?
Yeah, we do. So we are predominantly an active senior living community. What I mean by active is people like you and me, except that they are 55 years or older. So that's our predominant customer, and our facilities are designed to cater to that customer and their lifestyle. So if a person, for example, has an advanced stage of dementia, very advanced stage of ortho and neuro conditions, and we are not able to give them the necessary care, then we don't take them in. However, that being said, we have partner tie-ups currently wherein we give them the solution of what would be a safe place for them right now. And we're in the process of building these assisted living communities where we would eventually be a CCRC or a up to end of life care player. So I have seen from my studies around the world that generally the active seniors do not like to hang with the assisted seniors.
Okay.
So it becomes important to physically keep them apart so that both of them feel mentally better, because one when it sees the other, it has an effect on them internally. So we are in the process of building out these assisted living communities, but until such time we have the partner tie-ups where we solve for this.
Okay. And currently you back 20 million funding, right? My question is, after this funding, which particular need gap are you laser focused on, which any other industry players in this particular sector is not addressed that kind of problem yet?
So the need gap is across the whole sector, right? If you look at elders today and how they go about their everyday life, there is a lack of trust and the lack of convenience in every interaction. For example, if you are the caregiver for your parent and assuming that you don't stay under the same roof, they have to call a different person for everything. For travel, they're calling one person. For medicines, they're calling another person. For a doctor, they're calling another person. For some banking, they're calling another person. So there is this ecosystem is not friction free, right? So one of the areas that I am focusing on is how to make some form of a holistic platform that would make the lives of elders convenient. So that's one thing we're working on. And the other thing, of course, is the housing problem is very big. If you look at the countries around the world, like in America or Japan or Australia, the penetration rate for senior living is between 6 to 11%. Means 6% of everybody above the age of 60 stays in a senior living or a retirement community. In India, the current supply is 20,000 units. India has, I think, 140 million elders, right? 14 crore elders. And so those numbers are very big. But JLL recently released a report that pegged the formal demand at about 12 to 14 lakh units for senior living. So the gap is large and the need is there. So the focus is all around.
So Journal Catalyst has invested in giants like Airbnb and Canva. It's also invested in Primus, right? How has their vision or in terms of their strategies helped your vision in scaling the business, and even the passion you have, the way you're explaining me about all the need gap that you're going to cater and make sure it is being tapped into? How is Journal Catalyst helping Primus in this vision?
So of course we're very lucky to get Journal Catalyst. What a lot of people don't know is Journal Catalyst is actually one of the world's biggest age tech and health tech funds, right? And they run health for this place called The Villages, which is the world's largest retirement community. It's in Florida, it's 35,000 acres. And Journal Catalyst runs health for it. Okay. So we get to leapfrog all the learnings that they have over decades of managing elders. So that's why we are super excited to have them on our cap table. And also having Journal Catalyst with us opens the doors to all the companies they have invested in, as well as the most cutting edge stuff that happens around age tech. So that is how we are lucky to be able to call them our partner.
And talking about technology, I'm sure even when you would have gone abroad, when you said I took a sabbatical and saw all the senior citizen places, technology has been playing a pivotal role in elder care, especially in global market. But when it comes to India, right, we still haven't integrated technology in certain manner which makes it very seamless experience. How are you in Primus going to integrate technology so that it becomes a good experience for the residents, as well it creates a good holistic, I would say, a seamless solution and experience for your residents?
Yeah. So when you look at technology in elders, right, typically elders are not a fan of technology or being heavy users of technology. That being said, the way that we look at technology is from how we can make our homes more safe from a health lens. Today, what most homes already have is a smart home, which pretty much means operating a curtain or an air conditioner or something like that. But what we have started to do is You started to tie up with companies that could bring in devices that could monitor falls, devices that monitor temperature, devices that monitor arrhythmic heartbeat during your sleep. And we're building something that integrates all of these. So then the home becomes health-wise smart, and it can point to an underlying condition, or it can point to an emergency before the emergency happens. So that's how we are looking at technology from a consumer-facing lens. And the other part of the technology is back-ended for us that makes us more efficient. How do we deliver better quality of care? How can we better optimize our resources? And that's more of a internal solution, but that's how we are looking at technology.
And do you believe technology is going to be a very essential, especially even in elder tech? Because I understand you're talking about emergency, and that's how in global market it's happening, that in your house, if there's a fall happened, if there has been certain heart attack, or the person pushes the emergency button, immediately it goes to the hospital, and all of that is taken care. That is one side to it. But do you think in future, in going time, the technology will play a very pivotal role, especially in elder care?
Absolutely. I think hospitals are going to get restricted only to surgeries.
Right.
All other forms of care will happen at home. This is what I feel is going to happen, which means that the house now becomes ready to be a hospital as and when you need it to be. And people like us and other assisted living players are probably going to lead the charge to making this transformation happen.
Great. So tell me, in 10 years, where do you see Primus heading, and how do you want the Primus to be looked upon in the eyes of every, I would say, senior citizen and their families?
That's a tough one, but the dream is, of course, to be the player that understands health span. So we want elders in India to believe that if I go through the Primus ecosystem, I'll be healthier, I'll be happier, I'll be fitter. I think that's our larger goal. So yeah, so my vision is to improve health span for as many Indians as possible.
Right. And 2025 is around the corner now, right?
Yeah.
So what future goals you have kept in mind for Primus?
So more immediate goals are, of course, we're now going to be in 6 cities. So we started off in Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bombay and Calcutta. These are our immediate markets. We may look at few other metros. So we are looking at about 5,000 homes over the next few years. And on the technology or the elder care platform side, we're figuring it out. We're trying to build something that's a frictionless experience for elders. So we hope to, make some inroads in that area.
So post-pandemic, suddenly there has been now talk of PropTech, right? PropTech has been there. It's just that post-pandemic, people woke up to the technology solutions, especially in real estate, right? So when it comes to PropTech industry in India, where do you see Primus could collaborate with PropTech technology companies, or do you feel there is still going to be a bit of a maturity happening in that kind of segment for Primus to collaborate?
No, not at all. I think PropTech plays a very large role already in what we do, right? Because as far as delivering the home is concerned, a lot of the elements are very similar to what a real estate developer does. We still have to pour concrete, put a safe space for elders to age in and deliver that. So the technologies around drones, the technologies around managing the building construction process, the technologies around effectively managing sales and marketing, all of that, some of them we already use. And I think it is going to be much more integrated in this. People who will not have PropTech as part of their growth journey may not grow as fast.
Right.
It's like saying, I'm not going to think of using AI in my business, right?
True.
Either you use AI or you're going to die. So you have to choose which one.
So, and I'm quite interested also to know, because the kind of senior living people, residents you have described for Primus, I'm sure they must be quite interested, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, are they interested in knowing that how sustainable practices are being part of these communities? Are they interested? Because it's a concern, it's a growing concern among home buyers as well, right? So how do you
So in my view, the questions that we get typically around elders, and for us almost all our homes are bought and decided and paid for by elders themselves, not by the children of elders. Their concerns are primarily around how their life gets better.
Okay.
Right? Sustainability is not yet a conversation for us. And generally speaking, sustainability in the real estate sector at the moment is a good to have, not a must have. So we'll have to see how that journey pans out.
Great. So I'll start our rapid fire, which is quite famous in Let's Talk. And here I don't want you to take too much of time.
Sure.
And quickly, the first thought which comes, you have to respond to it. Yeah?
Okay.
So what's the worst and the best advice that you received during your entrepreneurship? It's not necessary that you have followed the worst advice, but you must have chuckled when you look back to it.
Of course, the worst advice is don't deal with old people, they don't give you money.
Okay.
And the best advice is follow your heart, do what you love.
Nice. So what's the most rewarding part of building senior living spaces?
I think it's the only place where you can get passion and purpose together and you can make some returns in the process as well.
Nice. One feature in your community that residents love the most?
I think it's our events team.
Yeah.
Every day they all get together and there's a group activity that happens. People just love that.
And how would you describe your leadership style in 3 words?
I think empathy. 3 words. I don't even know if I have so many leadership qualities. Yeah.
I'm sure your team must have spoken about it.
I think, empathy and probably organized. Yeah. Okay. I can't think of a third one.
What's a misconception about senior living you love to break?
That it is for families whose children and parents don't get along with each other.
Yeah.
We have seen quite the opposite. And we have seen how much the children call us and check up on their parents, and we have seen how many grandkids come here. Every summer vacation, it's a competition of grandkids that happens in our multi-purpose hall.
Nice.
Yes. So I'd love to correct this notion that still exists.
Nice. Describe Primus senior living in 3 words.
Convenience, comfort, and kindness.
Nice. So if not senior living, which industry would you have ventured into and why?
Probably something to do with cycling, because I'm an avid cyclist.
Okay.
So probably I'd do something around that, maybe a community for cycling, maybe build a cycle, I don't know, probably that.
Nice. So if you could dine with any historical figure, living or dead, who would be and why?
Historical figure? Wow, that's a tough one. If it's the present is always easier, right?
Yeah.
So probably Trump, because I'm very intrigued by the man.
Okay, nice. So what's your life mantra in 1 sentence, if you have to describe?
Follow your heart.
Okay. What's one piece of advice you would love to give your 20-year-old self?
Always start your entrepreneurship journey early.
Okay. One key lesson you have learned from your journey as an entrepreneur?
It takes time to build meaningful businesses. There is no such thing called an overnight success.
True, I agree with that. What's your go-to strategy for making tough decisions?
Make it quickly.
And what's one value you refuse to compromise on no matter what?
It is, we put the elder in the center of all our decision making. And for me, I have a simple decision making in my mind. Whether I'm making my grandmother proud or I'm not making her proud. So every decision I take, that's all I think in my mind. Is this going to make her proud or not? And accordingly, I take my decision.
Nice. And lastly, I would want you to give one key takeaway for the aspiring real estate entrepreneurs as well, the families who would be watching for their senior parents and everything. What is the one key takeaway you want them to take from this podcast?
I think in India, we don't understand aging. We have been very conditioned to believe that our parents want reverence, that we have to touch their feet, we have to respect them. Maybe the blind spot is that what they want is relevance. They want independence, they want agency. They want to feel like they are the owner of their own decisions. This is something that I would love families to encourage and think about. And the other thing is, I've always seen children who keep saying, this act your age, don't do this, don't do that, don't drive a car, don't lift this. No, don't act your age. Live your life, drive that car, it keeps you mentally active, it keeps you physically active. It's very good for you. So this is the conditioning that, I hope that I can play a small role in changing.
Thank you so much once again to be here in Let's Talk Business. It was lovely to have you here, and I'm sure our viewers would have learned a lot about Primus Senior Living. And I wish you great luck, and I'm sure you'll be expanding to more further cities by 2025.
Thank you. Thank you. It was my pleasure being here with you today. Thank you.